You're basically using AI to find your why.
At some point, it does make sense. When it gets difficult, and it will get difficult at some point, you will fail because it's not clear why you do what you do. You need to be 100% committed. And that's also why the subtitle in this book is like it is. You can't change that. I always use this example of like a team of engineers that have to build a nuclear power station. Many people set goals but fail to achieve the goals because
I never really questioned my personality type. I just didn't care. This changed after my conversation with Christoph Schwichtenhövel. Knowing and matching the right personality types might actually be the key to a successful relationship, business, and life. So Chris, yesterday I bought your book, Born This Way, on Amazon. It's in German, I think, only, but so far, I guess. It has 4.8...
Yet, yeah.
It has 4.8 out of 5 stars rating, which I believe is actually the best rating you can get. It's better than 5.5 for obvious reasons. And
absolutely, yeah.
And I bought it because of the subtitle. And the subtitle says, I think I hope I translated it correctly, why you can't develop your personality and how you can do it using the O.C.E.A.N model. Which, itself doesn't make sense at first. So I really want to know, what are you talking about in this book? And my question is, how did you become obsessed with personality types and what is the O.C.E.A.N model?
Well, that's a lot of questions for the start, but yeah, of course, I want to answer all of them because the O.C.E.A.N model was a game changer for my personal life, for my relationships to other people, for the way how I communicate, for reaching goals. It's a game changer in behavior at all. First of all, the O.C.E.A.N model is a model how to measure your personality. I mean, personality is a thing what makes you unique. Personality describes what you are, who you are, and a part of it, how you behave. So there are a lot of personality models out there in the market, like the 16 personality models, the DISC model, RISE profiles, a lot of models, and O.C.E.A.N is one of them. And from my point of view, I'm not a scientist, but from all I've read and all I've heard, this model is the one that is best researched from a science perspective. So it's basically the best model how to measure personality. It's a 5, respectively 10 factor model. So you measure the personality by 5, respectively 10 factors. The model I use is the Deep O.C.E.A.N, so it's the 10 factor model. And you can, measure personality. So it all started with analyzing language. People were looking, how can you describe other people's personality or behavior? You can be curious, you can be funny, you can be sportive, you can be challenging, interesting, bullying, whatever. And then they started grouping these adjectives all together, like similar adjectives together. And from this, they built these 5 dimensions, respectively, the 10 dimensions, which is the 5 dimensions broken down into 2 deeper dimensions. And this is basically where the model came from, 80 years ago or so. And it's basically the best way to measure behavior. And I learned about the model, I think 3 years ago, maybe. And I was super interested when I listened to it because my own behavior was always I talked about things and I'm really enthusiastic and I'm also very assertive. So when I have a new idea in mind or something in my mind, I'm talking about that. And I say, this is how we should do it. And in other people's views, this was almost in the way of bullying because I was very straightforward, talking about things and how things should go. But I wasn't reflecting myself because I didn't know that actually. I didn't feel it, that I was very straightforward. And by having this model and having a look at my personality, I learned that I'm this type of personality and I learned how to cope with that in certain situations, like not always being that straightforward, like talking to different people in a different way to best communicate with them, to get the best results altogether. And that was a game changer in my personal life, in my relationship, and also in business. And yeah, that was the reason why I started an apprenticeship, like coaching this model as well. I learned how to analyze other people's personality, how to do debriefings with them, and how to do coachings based on this personality model. And of course, then I said, well, I want everyone in the world, or as many people in the world as possible, to learn about this model, to know about this model. And that was the reason why I wrote the book that you bought yesterday.
Very interesting. So basically, the way you communicated with people was perceived differently to what you thought you're doing. You even said they thought you're bullying them, sort of, because you were very direct. And you thought, okay, there's like this weird situation where you just want to be nice and they feel like you're bullying them, sort of, right? Maybe not as extreme. And then you realized, oh, that's because I have a different personality, or they have a different personality. And you realized, like, you kind of felt some negative emotion probably, and you felt like what I'm doing is, I don't know, maybe I'm even strange or something. And you didn't really realize that there are different personality types, and that made you discover all that. That's fascinating, because I personally never thought about it that hard. I also have no idea what personality type I am. What, for example, is your personality type that made you have this sort of problems?
Well, first of all, before I learned about the model, I didn't even reflect about that. It somehow led maybe to a conflict. And after that, I thought, why was there a conflict now? Why is the other person behaving like that? That's nonsense. Why is he or she doing that? So I wasn't reflecting at all. And by learning about the model, I learned that other people have other ways of communication, have other needs, have other ways of behaving. So that was the first step, like acknowledging that other people are different and their behavior is totally fine. It was my problem, not the other people's problem. And that is the first step, like discovering people are different, discovering how they are, discovering who I am and how I am, and then how to best work with each other. So that's basically the way how to work with the model. And the good thing about the model is it does have 10 factors, 10 dimensions, how to measure it. And there's no type, no so-called type. Like there's other personality models which like put you in a box and say you're the yellow type, or you're the commander type, or the architect, whatever. And then you're like boxed and you're stuck in this box. And it's like, well, I am just the architect. I can't change myself. And that's like also a limitation of the other models. Like, how do you work with another person when, like, for example, you would be an architect and the other person is like a commander or whatever? What is the result right now? How do you work with that in daily life? It's difficult, especially when you have like 3 or 4 or 5 people, like a big team working together, because you don't right from the box or the type, you don't know what the needs of the other person are. You don't know what the reactions of the other person are. And the O.C.E.A.N model is different. They have these 5, respectively 10 dimensions, and all people are measured in the same dimensions. So, like, when it comes to, let's say, enthusiasm, we're both measured in the same scale, in the same dimension, enthusiasm. And for example, you would be very enthusiastic and I was not. Then we have a way how to work with each other, how to communicate with each other. Because I know, oh, you're very enthusiastic, I have to talk differently to you than I would talk to another person which is also not very enthusiastic. So that's like a very practical way of working with each other. And when you have the models, like the 10 dimensions, you could put them, like draw them like a spider net or something. and you can put them on each other. That means you can very quickly analyze the models of like 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 people and say, where are the blind spots? Where are the strengths of the teams? Where are the special needs? And also when you have a team, like when they work together, which characteristics are needed in this team and which does the team have already and which are missing? So what type of person do we need in the team to fulfill the needs or to fulfill the tasks that the teams has to do? And this is the very strong thing about the model, that you can like really work with it in everyday life and make it visible very quickly by putting the spider nets on each other.
That's really interesting, because that means that if you hire someone as a company, it would be ideal to not ask them, what did you do, what degree you have. It would be way more important to really ask, okay, or basically do the O.C.E.A.N test with them. I guess there is sort of a test to figure that out. And then basically say, okay, we have 5 people who all are not enthusiastic, right? Then you can already know, maybe we should not actually look for someone who has 3 years experience in XYZ, but more like, is he enthusiastic? Because we already know that we have this blind spot in our company that no one is enthusiastic, right? So we need this energy, and then we can therefore create a team that works well together. And we can also understand that if you communicate in a call or in a team meeting, that, okay, this person will react like this person will react like this. And therefore, there's also this understanding, because let's say you have good news with a new client and someone is like, okay, cool. And the other person is like celebrating all the time. It's not like that person is strange. It's more like you already know that will be the reaction of them. And therefore, everyone understands how everyone thinks and that there are different character types. That's really powerful for any business, I guess. And that's actually something I discussed last week with someone.
Absolutely.
That people are not really hiring based on characters that much, even though it's way more important, and rather based on their skills, even though often the skills could be, taught in a few weeks. And they're still looking for the skills, but a long-term relationship to people works way better if you find the right people, the right character. You need to have some egoistic people when it comes to certain tasks. You need to have people who are more like, I just do what you say. They just focus on finishing the tasks. And you need to better define the character and not actually the skill, because the skill is not that important. Rarely there's a skill that takes years to develop, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know how it's in Austria, but in Germany, like certificates count more than characteristics, personality and everything. And that's really sad, because I always use this example of like a team of engineers that have to build a nuclear power station, because it's very a nice example of how this model could work. Like engineers, they are strong in intellect. They can solve difficult problems. They can think deeply of like a lot of steps. So when you have an engineer and a team of engineers that are all of them high in intellect, that's a good thing, first of all, because they will probably be able to build this nuclear power station. But there's different factors in the model that need to be viewed at, like the orderliness, like how do you work with systems? Yeah, do you have a system how to work all the tasks, or do you just like improvise all the time and are very creative? So if you have a team of engineers that are high in intellect but low in orderliness, they might be able to think about all the steps, but then they don't write it down and they just improvise and they say, oh, we will see, let's see how it goes. And if they're then also low in withdrawal describes like, do you worry about problems or negative effects? And if they are all very low at that as well, they think, oh, everything will be all right. We just built the power station and then let's see. And they maybe they forget like a very important milestone or whatever in building this station. And then they finish it and everything explodes after a week, like, which would be a big bang, very bad thing. But if you look at their personalities, you could have seen that before. And you could have said, oh, we need another engineer who's high in orderliness and high in withdrawal. And don't put him in the team in the very first stage where they might have to be creative, where they might have to find a new solution, how it could work, but put them into the project at a later step, like before they really start building, when the first project is done, like at a certain milestone where he has to overview all the things and says, okay, this looks good, but there's a problem, there could be a possible problem, and here we need to look about it again. And then they could be like a really effective team altogether.
I totally get it.
But these are the people, like if you put them in a brainstorming room in the very first moment, he will be like the breaking person and say, no, this is not working and this is not good and I've made bad experience about that. And these are the people you probably met before at some point, and they are no bad people, but they were just not at the right place at the right time. And so this is like how you could be way more effective with high performing teams.
I totally agree in that. This exact same personal experience, actually. I'm working with someone who is more the person who is more orderly, and she's also a little bit more, I would not say pessimistic, but more like rational about things. And I'm more like the creative and enthusiastic person about certain offers. And she helps me in a way that I'm just brainstorming, and then she's like, look, we can't offer that because it's too cheap, it will not work, it will take too much time, and also you need to think about, whatever taxes ahead, because you have to pay the taxes, so you now have to charge more, for example. So, and she will also, take my brainstorming, put it into an Excel sheet, for example, in numbers, so I can see, oh yeah, you're right, it doesn't make any sense to offer this. But I'm more like this, creative, enthusiastic person who's like, yeah, we'll make it work. But so it also, you said it depends on the timing. If she's involved in the brainstorming, it might actually hurt a little bit, because then we might not develop a good offer. But once the brainstorming is done and the idea of the offer is done, then she's there to take a look and actually see if this is realistic, right? So I think that makes total sense. And you don't want to have only creative people who all think that all this is going to work, and then no one is monitoring it, no one is doing Excel sheets, no one is doing accounting, all these things, and then half a year later there's taxes or something, and then you just go broke because you just made so many mistakes, or you even did something illegal without even knowing, because you just didn't have anyone following the rules, right? And you didn't even want it, but it's like, okay, you only focused on the creative part, the development. Yeah, I'm totally with you. I totally understand why this is extremely important, and I should really think about this more as well, and not just be like, okay, everything's going to work out, but actually you can design the perfect company up front, and also based on the timing with the certain steps, do not, in your example, have everything explode. I recently watched Oppenheimer, actually, finally, and I had to think about Oppenheimer all the time, and how his team also had to have certain personality types that this actually is going to work, even though the end result was bad. But at least they, I don't know, but you get the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also why the subtitle in this book is like it is. You can't change that. It's like the first impulse, what your personality is. Like drawing or having bad thoughts or worrying about things or being enthusiastic is the first impulse that comes out of you. And it's very hard to suppress that. But you can do it when you know who you are and how you behave and what the needs of the other person are. Then you can like reflect and say, okay, usually I would be very enthusiastic, and this would be my first impulse. But right now, I want to convince the other person, which is not enthusiastic. So it doesn't make sense like to blah, 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 be very energetic and funny and whatever. It's more about reasonable, having arguments and talking, having a deep talk about that and convincing the other person on this level. It's just on another level. But you have to, first of all, you have to reflect, who am I? who's the other person, what are the other person's needs, and then in a certain situation, you can adjust that and work on another level. So it's basically not about changing your personality at all, but using it in a different way in certain situations.
Yeah, so the awareness of your personality allows you to understand that this is how you react now, but you also understand that the other person has a different personality, and therefore you can take a step back, think about it, you're aware of that you react differently to her or him, and then therefore reflect and be like, what's the best way to communicate now to reach my goal, for example. And without this awareness, which in my case is kind of, I mean, I said I'm kind of the creative guy who doesn't really, is not very orderly, but it still means that me being aware should always play a part before I communicate something that is important, and then I can therefore also, influence the outcome. And yeah, this sounds like such a smart way to communicate, because it's not about this is my impulse and I'm just, doing this, and then I blame everyone else that they are not reacting the way I think they should or I was hoping for. But actually I can control it, and I can go deep and reflect and then make decisions, and therefore change the outcome of whatever I'm working on, or even romantic relationships, right? Like this doesn't only work for business, this works for romantic relationships as well, because you know that you are the person who reacts differently. Yeah. You understand that your partner is different, and therefore you just understand why you feel certain things, and you can then manipulate it in a positive way. I'm really, like, I didn't read the book yet, but I will definitely do it because I'm really interested in this now.
You should, yeah.
Also, the spider net idea is amazing. To actually see where are the blind spots, and then in every relationship, is there something missing, and how to deal with that, right?
Yes, and also it's very funny, like, you have to work with this model for a certain time, like to get really deep into the model and to understand how it works also in everyday life, and also to understand how you are and what your needs are. But then after a certain time, you get like on a meta level, and you can like watch yourself behaving, and then it's like, oh, well, there's my intellect again. I'm talking very, very theoretically, and no one will understand. And this is like, oh yeah, there's my intellect again. Do I want to change this now, or do I want to go on? And then it's like very, very much, it's much easier to change behaviors, because like when you don't know about your behavior, it's like, I want this, and you don't understand why you behave like you behave. And after that, it might lead to a conflict, and then you say, well, the other person is just stupid, and she just doesn't know what I'm talking about. She just doesn't get me. But when you understand who you are and the other person are, you can go on a meta level and say, oh, well, this is the potential conflict again. Do we want to change it right now, or do I want the conflict? Is the conflict helpful, maybe? Even?
It's like viewing yourself as a
nice
third party, right?
It brings...
It's like a computer game. It's not you anymore who reacts. It's more like, this is your player in this game, and these are his traits, his character, and also the partner also is this player, and you know exactly how they are going to react, and you can then therefore control it. And it's not like just like if you are enthusiastic, it's not you being enthusiastic, it's just your version of being enthusiastic, sort of, and you're aware of that, and or your intellect, as you said. And yeah, I think that's in general a very good exercise, to always kind of zoom out and not actually see yourself as, I don't know, there's a probably a word for that, like that you all just think that everything you do is just you, but actually seeing yourself as a third person, I think it's in general for everything a better approach. Also to, do certain things like, go on a podcast. It's like zoom out and be like, what should this person now do if he wants to, I don't know, sell something? A podcast is probably a good way because more people will get to know him. And it's not you being scared that you don't want to speak in public, right? So then everything becomes easier. Yeah, I really like it.
Brings a lot of lightness into your life. Yeah.
You also, besides writing book, I found a Notion side of you on which you offer an intense business checkup call or workshop. I think it's like a 4-hour long workshop together with your business partner, I think. And this is like offered for under 12 employees, which I'm curious why 12, by the way. Can you walk me through what are you doing during this workshop? Is this also related to personality types, or is this more towards like what exactly do you do in this workshop?
Yeah, maybe I have to start talking about what I do in business life generally. So I'm a business consultant for like solopreneurs and entrepreneurs with small teams, or entrepreneurs who want to build a team. And also, of course, this personality model is as a very important base in my work, of course. First of all, like understanding yourself, but also if you want to build a team, like recruiting, who are the people you have to recruit, but also in sales, like what's the language you want to talk, and how can you better speak the language to your clients that you really reach their hearts. So this is, of course, is a very important base, but what we do is like the business consulting on a very strategic level. So we look about what's your vision in your business and why do you want to do that, and how can you like open your business for that, and how can you make other people understand why your business is existing. And of course, personality is a very important part of that, but it's also about your vision, about your dreams, about your values. And in this intense business check, we go through all the layers that are important for your business, like the operational layers, of course, like how can you improve operations, for example, recruiting, but also the strategic layers, like or the normative layers. What is your vision, and do your employees, does your team understand what the vision is? What are your goals, and why are they important to you? Because many people set goals, but many people fail to achieve the goals because they don't know why they set the goals. And when you have a clear vision of your business and where you want to go, and when you have the clearliness, when you have clear why you set the goals, then it's much easier to reach them. And of course, in this business check, we do like an intense check of all the layers and the important factors and the blind spots, of course. And it's just like, to find the right blind spots and to develop a roadmap how to close these gaps. And this is, it's a very intense workshop, one-on-one, where we define what the next steps could be to like close these blind spots and to develop and finally to get growth into your business by having a strong vision, strong values, and a strong culture, which is the base for everything that is operational, like better sales, or like having a good offer, or working better with your target audience. This is also everything very operational, but the base you need is like, who are you really? Who do you want to be? What's your vision about that? And what are the people you want to work with? And how can you make them clear? Where are you going? Because I had that in my own job. I worked in a big German company, and I wasn't clear where this company will go because they set goals. Yes, they had like a mission, but they didn't really bring the mission to their employees. They didn't explain why the mission was the mission. So the employees said, "Okay, it's a mission, nice." But they didn't follow. They wouldn't have went to war for that mission because they didn't understand that. And that's my ambition, like in businesses, to bring more vision. First of all, more vision into the business, but also bring it to the people, to the employees and to the customers. Because when you really have a deep understanding, what's the business for? Where do you want to go with that? Then you will have a clear opinion on, does it help me? Do you want to buy? Am I a potential customer? Or do I want to be part of that? am I a potential employee? And this needs to be clear for the entrepreneur or the solopreneur first. And I think many people start with the operational stuff, with the offer and what do they want to do, but they are not clear why they want to do that. And that's the thing we talk about in this workshop, but also about the O.C.E.A.N model a little bit.
That's extremely important. And it might sound to some like this is nice to have, right? Really know why you're doing it, really having a good vision, really being emotional attached to your business. But actually, I think I read a study that said 90% of businesses fail because they're operating on an artificial why, which is exactly what it is describing. It's basically, okay, here's a market for product X, and that's why we build it. But actually, no one cares about it. We have nothing to do with the product itself. We just know that there are a lot of people interested in it. And then when it gets hard, or when it comes to communicating with employees that they actually really do a good job, no one is kind of emotionally attached to it because no one feels the mission, no one feels the why, no one understands why this company makes a difference. And then everyone is like only operating on like, let's say 60% of what they could do because no one really takes it seriously. There's no vibe, there's no tribe in terms of we really need to get this to the people, we really need to make this change. This is really something life-changing to everyone, to myself. I really believe in that. I wake up in the morning, I feel good because I can work on this business. If this is not there, you're likely failing because the competition, those who figured out what the why is, those who did a workshop with you basically, they will outperform you, because if you are as smart as they are, but you are not really believing in the business, then they will always win against you because they will just make better decisions. They will spend more time working on it. They will be more creative. They will solve problems better, right? It's not a nice to have. It's basically the core of a business, and it's the opposite of, we just sell that because, whatever, it's profitable. Yeah, I think that's really, really powerful.
Yeah. I heard an interesting podcast about that last week, and it said, you can only be really successful if you're 100% committed. 99.9% is not enough, because when it gets difficult, and it will get difficult at some point, you will fail because it's not clear why you do what you do. You need to be 100% committed. And you can only be 100% committed when you know what you're committed for, right? And that's basically the roots, the vision, your values, your leading star that you're following.
Yeah, now I also get why you talk about less than 12 people, because I think it's mainly a solopreneur thing as well, but even when you have some co-workers, because you kind of start without even knowing if this is what you want to do. It's more like you just want to make money, or you just want to start a company, and then you do some market research and you're like, yeah, okay, I can do this, I have some background here or there. But you don't really start it because it's needed, not because it's your vision, not because this is something you think of for 10 years and now you finally can do it and you basically take the risk. It's more like, I want to have a startup or something, right? I want to be a solopreneur. I don't want to work a 9 to 5. I want to make money. If those are the reasons, then you often end up with a company that doesn't have a real why, and therefore you will still have problems. Let's say you, I don't know, extreme example, you're drop shipping some phone case, right? You do it because you saw some guy being successful drop shipping. You buy some phone cases in China, ship it to German customers. And then because you think that's your way out of the 9 to 5, that's how you can make money. But at some point, this phone factory, or let's say the Facebook ads go up, or you get banned from PayPal or something, or the company shuts down, the prices increase, customers complain. All these problems will happen to some extent, and then at some point you're like, okay, I think I failed. I can't do this anymore, because you don't own the fact that you really believe in this phone case. You're not really, I'm alive because I want to sell phone cases. That's usually not the case. You're not enthusiastic about it. And then the problems happen and you're like, yeah, let's do something else. And then you probably start with something else, like, let's sell print-on-demand t-shirts because people say it's profitable and they just need to put in some canvas there and then just sell it. But then you don't get any sales and you're like, it's the wrong model again. And then you kind of keep going, but you never actually try to solve the problem. You're not going out there and basically tell people, hey, buy my phone case, it's so amazing. You're not ready to do everything that's needed in order to solve these problems. and therefore you're going from one business to another. But if you just find your why instead, and really, even if the product is harder to sell, you are likely more successful because you really do everything to solve these problems. How do the personality types play a role when it comes to finding your why? Is this like the same problem for everyone, or are there certain people who are, for example, if I'm enthusiastic, is it possible that I'm more likely to start the wrong business because I'm just too enthusiastic about me starting a business, or is it the same for everyone?
Possibly, yeah. I don't think it's the same for everyone, because finding your why is not like a definition that can be read in a book or so. I mean, there's a process, and we meanwhile developed a process of how to find your why or how to approach this, but it's never like a process that can be 100% worked down and then you say like after a week, now I have my why and I'm 100% sure of that, and these are the 3 steps how to find it. That's not how it works. It's a process of approaching, trying, thinking about it, look into the past. But because finding your why is one thing, but explaining why your why is important to you and why you have this why is as important as finding the why itself. So it takes time. So, of course, the personality model does have an influence on that. So if you're very enthusiastic, you might think about 10 different whys in the first place, and then you have to choose like, which why is now really important? Which is the true why, and which is the one that I just thought it could be interesting or important? Also, maybe the why is the why of another person, or a why of the public opinion. So, of course, it's different when you have like high enthusiasm or when you have like high orderliness. Then you might think about, oh, well, is this really why? I need to write it down. I need to structure it now. I need to find 20 different reasons if this is the real why. But maybe then you're so much into your head that you forget about your heart, about your feelings. Because when you talk about your why, I mean, there should be strong emotions. There should be goosebumps on your arm when you talk about your why. And also, of course, when you have like high orderliness, you might forget about this. So the personality model is something you have to keep in mind when finding your why and when working on your why. So that is why this should be the base. Like the very first thing is to know about your personality. Then is about what's important to you in life. Because in my opinion, it's much easier to find your why when you step back from your actual business and think about the things that are to you important to you in life generally. Because when you always have this business that you're actually doing in mind, then it's like, yeah, this could be a nice why, but it doesn't fit to my actual business. It will not work out. Or no, with the employees I'm having right now, I can't have this why because it won't work. You're always limited. And then when you step back and look at it at a higher level, and the why can be something that is even independent from your business. It doesn't have to be part of your business 100%, but it needs to be clear what you need the business for to fulfill the why. Maybe it's you want to do something good for children in Latin America. This is your strong why. But you need a business you need to earn money for that. And so it's not only about the why, but it's about explaining why the why is important to you and how you can approach the why. And this is a process that takes some time, of course, but with the right questions and with stepping back from what you're actually doing and who you are surrounded by, which people you are surrounded by, makes it much easier and a much more helpful approach to find
This sounds very similar to like medicine. Like, for example, let's say you are an overweight person and then you need a knee injury. then when you just operate in your business and be like, okay, this is the why I need to create now, then it's like, okay, I need to get a knee injury because my knee is broken. But if you just find your why right away, it's like, okay, let's just not be overweighted anyway and just do sports or, eat less, whatever. And then your knee injury will probably not even happen, right? So it's I think in business, I mean, maybe it's not the best example, but I think in business it's more about if your why is strong from the beginning, you're not even facing these problems later. And it's more, I guess what you mean is that people often make the mistake of, this is the process we need to optimize right now, and now we just throw an artificial why on it, why we are doing it. But we are not zooming out, we are not doing it the right way from the beginning. And yeah, it definitely also makes sense that personality types play a role in that. I really like the way you think about it. It's like, I think that's actually so important, and not many people talk about it. It's just, yeah.
No, that's because it's a process that is not always easy. Reflecting on yourself, reflecting on your needs, reflecting on your, I wouldn't call it strength or weaknesses, but really needs. And yeah, your basics is not always easy because it's sometimes hurtful. It's sometimes like acknowledging that in some situations you don't behave as you could be, or you could. So it's not an easy process. But once you did it, once you're through this, everything is so much easier. Taking decisions is so much easier because you just talked about this. Should I do a print-on-demand business, or should I do whatever, Amazon FBA, or should I design cases on my own, or whatever? What does bring me money? All these questions are much more easier to answer when you know the why, and you can answer, does this decision bring me closer to the why, or does it not? And then you don't jump like every 2 months or 3 months from decision to decision. And when you say, it seems it doesn't work, I'd try something else. You don't have this anymore, because when you have the why absolutely clear, when you have the vision clear, when you have the goals clear, and you know why you want to reach the goals, then the steps are also clear. And then you will communicate totally different about that. And the success will be totally different about that. And you don't need to change the model every 2-3 months. You don't need to think about your decisions every 2-3 months. Because when every decision is taken, does it bring me closer to the why or not? This doesn't mean that you will never take a wrong decision again. Don't get me wrong. But it'll be much easier to take the decisions. The worst decision is not to take a decision and to wait for weeks and months with a decision. And should I do it? Should I not do it? Well, I'm not sure. What does the market say? What's the next big thing? What's the running train that I could jump on? All these decisions will get out of your head because you don't need to take this decision anymore, because you have the why and you have the clear way that you want to go. And then you can take decisions much faster. And of course, success will be much faster in your life when you take faster decisions, because either you have the success straight, or you will learn and get the success from learning how it does not work and take the next road.
Yeah. From my experience, it even works in a way that the business itself is less relevant once you kind of find your why. As an example, I realized, in general, it's harder to find your why, but I realized over the last 20 years that I always like to coach others. So whatever I did, I played music when I was 14, 13 years old. I coached, I was a teacher, I was a music teacher, privately and coached some people, and I liked it. Then with poker, I also coached, and the playing part was never that interesting. It was more about learning about it and then coaching it, and this was fulfilling. Then whatever I did, and also now, it's I really like to study a game, whatever game it is, right? If it's some algorithm or whatever. Let's say it's marketing, and I just need to figure out, okay, what's the best strategy to make it real? It's kind of a game for me, and then I want to teach others how to do it. And this is whatever I replace it with, if this is about Instagram, if this is about poker, if this is about music, I always enjoy the process of teaching others. So I know that this is a strong, I mean, I don't know what's your opinion about it, but for me, I found out that it's just whatever I do, it's important that I have this coaching aspect, that I can go deep into a topic, which is kind of a game that I want to solve, a strategic game sort of, and then also have the coaching aspect. Like those two things, whatever I did, I always enjoyed these two things, right? I just need to find a game that I like, that I want to find out how it works, sort of, how to beat it. And then I want to coach about it, right? I want to tell people about how I solved it, sort of. And this is, I don't know, in my life at least, this was very consistent. So I'm looking back, and I think this is also why it's so hard to find your why. Because if you're doing something, as you mentioned, for a few weeks or months, then you don't know if this is your why, because how would you? It's like you did a lot of things before in your life and you also enjoyed it at some point. And now maybe you're just enthusiastic and motivated to do this new thing because it's this new shiny object, right? But then the motivation fades again. But then you can look back and be like, what are the things that I always enjoyed with whatever I did? And then I think you get closer to the why, right?
Yes, absolutely. Another good thing or another good approach is like to look at the big turning points in your life. Sometimes you have like this, what we call insights. An insight is something that you know for a certain time, but you don't have 100% clear yet. And then at some point it's like, aha, now I understand this. Now I see the clear picture of everything. And we all have these insights in our life. And at some point, we recognize that this was an insight. Maybe it's some months after or even years later. But when you have like, it's called like a feeling of knowing. It's very difficult to like state down your why in one sentence. And many people try to like write down the why and the vision and the mission in one sentence from the very beginning. This is very difficult because it always starts with a feeling. And the first thing is you should get this feeling, then you should get the feeling of knowing what the why and the vision are. And then you could look, why is it important to me? Where does it come from in the past? Where were these insight moments? Where were the turning points? And there are usually similarities in the past that you can discover. And by this, you can find out what the real why and the real vision is. And then you could start like trying to write down, trying to answer questions, trying to write down as much as you can, and then use like a large language model to say, okay, this is all the stuff about my why. Can you like make one sentence about it or out of it? Or can you like do 10 versions of this one sentence? And then you can like work on these versions and say, okay, this part of the first version is nice, and this part of the second version is nice. Let's match it together right now. And this is a very good way to find the why, because in the first step, it's very difficult like to write it down in one sentence because it's all about the feeling and the feeling of knowing first. And then you could match it with your past, and then you will find out, yeah, this is the thing. And then the last thing is like to really have one sentence to write down.
You're basically using AI to find your why, but it's basically just a
At
summary.
some point, it does make sense.
It does make sense, yeah. And my question is, how many turning points do you have? And like, because it's not that you have like a turning point every day, right? I guess you're talking about this, or maybe you can also describe what a turning point exactly is with an example. Is it like this epiphany where you suddenly understand certain things and you're like, this is how it works? Or is it like related to the business you do? Or is it just about in general your life? Let's say you have certain belief about something and then you change this belief. And it doesn't have to do anything with your business. Is this also a turning point? Or like, how many turning points do you need and what time period do you need in order to write something down that then can be summarized by AI?
How many turning points do you need? None, basically. You don't really need it, but most of the people have turning points that they are just not aware of yet. And it's like when you reflect the past and when you like write down what are the things that made impact in your life in the past? What are things that changed, like you said about beliefs? At some point, everyone is changing beliefs, but does it change because you changed your mind, or was there a certain factor outside in this world why you changed your belief? And reflecting on that helps you to find important turning points, to find important points and beliefs generally in your life. And you don't need like a certain number of points. It's not like you have to have 5 or something. Sometimes it's also like you grew up in a certain way, and at some point you learned about this. This is, for example, the roots of my vision, because I grew up with my mom and my grandma, 2 strong women, but no dad, no grandpa. So, and at some point I realized that they had certain beliefs and they put them on me, and I went on with these beliefs. And at some point I realized, oh, these are their beliefs, not mine. Why am I still believing this? Because it was like at that time for them the right belief, but it's not still the right belief for me at this time now. And this was a turning point where I developed my vision from, or where I got clear what my vision is. And this is nothing that you can have a schedule on or a template and say, go back to this point in your life, this year, this month, and then you will find it. It's like a reflection that you could do on your own, of course, but where like a coach or another person which is outside can help reflecting on when you talk about that. But yeah,
I know exactly what you mean.
It's reflecting on yourself first.
Yeah, I think everyone has that. I mean, maybe not, but I think you always have certain values and beliefs based on your environment, most likely your family, in your case, your grandma or your mom. And then you get older and you start thinking for yourself, basically, because as a child, you just do whatever they say. And then you suddenly reach a point where you think about it deeply and you reflect on it. And then you realize, I don't think what they are thinking is actually right. Maybe it was right back then, like 30 years ago. It made sense that they developed these values. But nowadays, I don't think this is true anymore. And you start to realize it's actually different. Or like in my case, I have some examples of how I thought about certain things based on my parents, based on where I grew up. Like I grew up on the countryside, and then I lived on my own. And then a few years in, I started to change my belief about certain things. And then you kind of develop this, that's really me, right? It's not me being influenced by my parents and just thinking what they are thinking. I'm not reading the news, or I'm not following and making a decision based on that, or like a belief based on that. I'm not following a certain person and then therefore just think what he's thinking. I'm just thinking for myself and be like, do I like this or not? And then you realize, okay, these are my actual values. Because, I mean, we're always influenced by anything, right? Whatever we think is still based on certain other people and opinions. But once you can get rid of something you thought when you were a kid, for example, which doesn't mean that you have to, it could also be that they were right. But if you change your belief, if you have this turning point, then you get closer to what you really want to do in your life, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a process of getting as close to the core as possible. And I don't know if we could ever get to the real core. Yeah, there's no promise or no certain agenda to do that, but it's a process. Yeah? And also with the vision and the values and the beliefs, it's a process of changing it, and it's a constant thing it's a constant way of growing. First thing is to accept that you can change the past. You can't change the past, but you can change the future and the way you think about the future.
I like that. Yeah. I have one question actually that I wrote down, which is very fitting to what we just talked about. And that's, what's one thing that you changed your belief about compared to 15 years ago?
One thing compared to 15 years ago is probably that I can't go to to other people that I don't know and start a discussion on whatever on. I always thought I was very introvert and drawn back, and I wouldn't be good at like doing chit chat and talking to other people. I was always thinking about, I would be enjoying that, but I don't know how to do that, and I'm not good at that, and people probably don't like me, whatever. And so I just didn't do it. And because I didn't do it, I wasn't good at it because I didn't practice. Logically, when you practice something, you get better. And at some point, I realized, well, this is a thing everyone is facing or everyone's challenging. Yeah, when you go to a group of people, like at a meeting or something, or a convention, group of people is waiting in front of the convention hall, standing all together and talking. And everyone came to that group at some point and was new. And so why just not go there, talk to them, say, hi, who are you? What's your vision? Where do you come from? What are your beliefs? And there was never a person that said, who are you? Go away. Never. Yeah. At some point you think, oh, this person is very, very sympathetic and I like the person. And you start a discussion. And maybe you even see, well, the person is not so interesting. I move on and go to another person. But that was a point where I changed my mind and my own beliefs very strongly. Like, I don't know, when was that? Maybe 10 years ago or so. But it was a process, of course. But right now, it's like I'm enjoying to meet other people and to talk to them and to get to know them and see, of course, to get to know about the O.C.E.A.N model. Right now, it's a hobby for me. Like when I meet another person, a new person, like to analyze from their markers, from the way they talk, what could be the O.C.E.A.N model and how could he behave? What's going on in this person? And right now, it's like fun for me, and it's a hobby, and it's really, really interesting to do that.
I have a question. First of all, because it's your hobby, what kind of markers do you spot in me during this, or like since we know each other?
Well, first of all, you said that you're already, or you said that you're very enthusiastic. Of course, from the way you talk, I could see that, because people who are enthusiastic, like they express their positive feelings very easily, and of course they smile a lot. They like to talk in groups, be part of be in the middle of a group and everything. Then you said you like to analyze things and have a deeply understanding, which is like this intellect dimension, which I think you're very strong at, or very high in the scale, because you like to have a deeply understanding of how things work and why they work. You're very creative, which is usually in the scale of orderliness low, because you don't want the structure, because the structure puts you in a fixed position where you can't be creative and where you can't be free. You said you love to help other people, or love to teach other people. And from my point of view, you're also like very good at analyzing what the feelings of the other people are, which is the dimension compassion. So you're probably high in compassion, like to understand what are the other people.
Interesting.
What else? Withdrawal. I think you did a lot of things. Yeah, you tried different business models. You like to play poker and everything. You like to analyze what the statistics are, but you're not scared of things. So I think you're probably low at withdrawal. This is what comes into my mind, like in the very first thing.
Yeah.
And let's say volatility is another dimension. So when you're stressed, it's like you explode and express your negative feelings, which is also possible to be like high in enthusiasm, express positive feelings, but also high in volatility, express negative feelings. But in your case, I think you're not very high. You're more low in this, So when you have like pressure, you're not exploding and say, wow, everything is bad and you're bad and the idea is bad. You're probably more pragmatic in expressing when you don't like something. And you're not like, your feelings don't lead you to explode, but it's more like, oh, how can we solve this now? I'm not happy about this and I can express it, but I'm not exploding and I'm not uncontrolled then.
I have to say that this is, for example, I mean, I really like the analysis. I'm not sure if it's completely right. I mean, we don't know each other that well, but I also have a different view about myself than, and probably like a way more subjective view than you have. So I guess I'm actually wrong myself. About the volatility, I think that I have this tendency of, exploding because, for example, my grandpa was like that. Like, he was exploding all the time for no reason really. But I learned that everyone else was like, why is he so angry for no reason right now? Why is he like so emotional? And I've learned that this is not a good thing to do. So I started to control myself. And then also when it comes to poker, in poker, it's normal that you lose all the time, right? It's like you win 60% of the time, which means nearly half of the time you're losing, and you still need to be okay with that because there's just this variance in the game. And I had to learn that, yes, I'm feeling bad now because no one likes losing, but it's part of the game and I can't change math, right? That's just part of how it works. So I always feel bad, and then I'm like, if I keep feeling bad now, it doesn't help me. I know that it's going to happen 40% of the time that I'm losing. So if I feel bad all the time, I need to accept it, then maybe do whatever I can do, maybe meditate, go for a walk, take a cold shower, just go to bed, or whatever I can do, go to the gym, and find ways to overcome that. And so it's still, I think naturally I would be, I forgot the word.
Volatile.
Volatile. But I learned because of my family and because of poker, in a way, that it's not a good thing, right? So this is probably exactly what you mentioned in the beginning, of being aware of your personality trait, and then it's kind of becoming a meta sort of thing, where you then can learn to deal with it, and then you also understand, oh, this is actually not the right thing to do. Let's just be more calm here and not explode, right?
That's an important thing, because behavior is not only your personality. It's also how you cope with stress. It's also like the surroundings that you're in. So maybe when you work in a company, you behave differently from when you're home with your family or when you're out with friends. So this is also a factor that counts in. And of course, like the patterns, your beliefs and the patterns of your behavior that you learned to develop. Like in this case, the volatility. Your first impulse maybe would be, oh, I'm exploding and I'm expressing my gut feelings. But then you learned, oh, it's not a good thing, like when playing poker or when talking to other people, because it doesn't help in this case. And then you changed the pattern of how you behave. And of course, when I do this like analysis from far away, it's difficult like to differentiate what is a pattern now and what is your core personality. This is where the test helps, and then you can like have a deeper analysis of, is this a pattern that you took from the past? And sometimes a pattern can be helpful, but sometimes it's not. And then you can start analyzing, what is your core personality? What are patterns? And which of these patterns do you want to continue with? And which of these patterns not? And this is the way of working into the model. So I basically did was just like a doctor from analyzing your disease from the distance.
But I think this was really powerful.
Can be right.
What you just said is that you don't know if it's a pattern or if it's my personality, right? Like you don't know if it's my behavior right now, like that I'm enthusiastic, that I'm smiling. Maybe it's a pattern, or maybe it's the personality. And this is exactly the subtitle of your book, basically. It means that, you can behave in a way to be enthusiastic, even though your personality is not being enthusiastic, because you realized it and you started to become enthusiastic. So you can change it, but actually the first impulse is probably still the same. That's the thing you can't change. But then you can say, do I like being like this? And then change it based on what you want to be. And that's I got it now. I like this.
Yeah, cool.
That's
yeah,
really
it's a
cool.
thing you can talk hours and hours about. But I love when people get a first impression and like start thinking about what's my behavior at all, and is it mine or is it just the behavior other people expect from me? And what's my impulse, my first thing? How do I cope with stress? How do I develop my behavior in different surroundings? When you start reflecting on that, that's the most important step. And yeah, if you want to take a test on that, go for it. That's a good thing because it gives you a much deeper understanding of how you react to certain situations, of how your brain and your personality works. Yeah, of course. If anyone's interested, just get in touch. We're offering this test. It's just like you do an online test, you answer questions. It's 100 questions. And you should do this when you're like not waiting for a train at the station or something, when you're stressed. But you should do it like in a relaxed surrounding. Take half an hour, 45 minutes to do the test. And then you get a test result, like with the spider net, your model, with a PDF report explaining all the different dimensions and what it means to you. And then you, of course, get a debrief, like a one-on-one with me or another coach, depending where you book this test. And then the coach will explain, of course, what does it mean to you right now? And how can you differentiate between your personality and your patterns? And how can you change your patterns? That is like work that could happen after that.
Where can I book the call with you or like the test?
I think we can put a link in the show notes if you want.
Okay.
Okay. And then or just get in touch with me on Instagram or LinkedIn. We'll work that out.
I will link your Instagram and maybe you have a direct link as well for the test. And we can put it on Instagram or YouTube, wherever this will appear. I mean, the full version will be on YouTube. Cool. Yeah. I think this is really powerful because I know some of my character traits, but definitely not all of them. And some of them I only know because I realized that there's a big problem and then I had to change it. And now I learned this behavior. I learned that I want to change my behavior, like similar to what I said. I learned that being like exploding every time because there's something happening is a bad thing, because why would you be so emotional about something negative? It would always have like a bad impact. But being aware of all of them, and then therefore you can design your own life. You can design how you want to react to certain situations, and you're full control over who you are. And this is, I really understand why I wrote this book. I kind of ignored it because it was more kind of a blind spot to me. It was more like, whatever, I am who I am, and I will just try to make the best out of it, and I see how I feel and what I want to do. But you can just be very, very upfront about that and therefore make way better decisions. You can just plan it out. It's like, I like that. Yeah, we'll do that.
That's true. It's the easy way is just going on the way you're already on and saying, I am who I am. The other people are who they are, and I can always blame the other people. That's the easy way, of course. But that's not the way that makes you happy in life. Of course, when you know about your personality, there will be some points where you say, oh, damn, why am I how I am? And why can't I be different? But that's another thing, or maybe the last thing I want to add to the model. If you're like high in a scale or low, it's not better or worse. It's not a scoring like you have to be high and then you're a better person. Every dimension has advantages and disadvantages. It's about the context. Sometimes a high dimension or a high scale or a high number in this dimension can be totally helpful, and in another context is totally unhelpful. It's about the context. That. So it's accepting about how you are and what you can do with that. And in the first place, it's not always like nice and happy, But after that, it gives you a lot of options. And that's the nice thing about that.
Yeah. I've realized that a lot when it comes to the, think deeply about something and then also having compassion. Because sometimes, especially in a romantic relationship, you might just be very rational about something and be like, yeah, if this would happen, we will probably more likely break up. And you just say it as a rational thought because that's kind of how your brain works in terms of how that this is a logic consequence. But if you say that to your partner, she's like, how can you say that? Like, how can you say that it's more likely that you're breaking up if this happens? I had this last week. But yeah, so yeah, it's true. It's true. Like all have
maybe
ups and downs.
you should both put your spider nets on each other and then figure out.
I would love to do that. Yeah. Amazing. Basically, to summarize, you're an author of the book Born This Way, which dives deep into the ocean model and actually the deep ocean. I think the difference is just deep means 10, right, instead of 5. So you have like five character traits, and then deep means that there's also sort of, do you think there's a need for 10 instead of 5? Do you think that it's better?
It gives you a much deeper understanding when you have like the 10 dimensions. 5 is nice, but 10 breaks it down much deeper, but it's still manageable. It's like it's not 50 dimensions where you lose the overview. 10 is still manageable, also in everyday life, also with teams, but it gives you a much deeper understanding.
Okay, so 10 is better usually. There's still a difference. With 50, there's probably hard to say, is there even a difference between this and that? But with 10, it's still, and with 5, it's probably, there will be a lot of people in between and they don't know what they are, I guess. Okay. I mean, before the podcast, we discussed that you also wrote some other books about whiskey, which is very interesting, that you're a whiskey enthusiast. And also, there are a lot of books of you on Amazon, actually. Maybe you can...
a few, a handful or so, The most important is probably the one about the ocean model. There's also a workbook with that, but I wrote some other books, which is probably a way of my expressing my ideas and my thoughts. And when I'm enthusiastic about something, then I say, why not write a book about that?
That's cool.
That's how that developed. It's
I will link
more or less
your Amazon page.
Side hustle.
They're mainly available on Amazon, right? Or are they available somewhere else?
Yes, they are available on Amazon because that was the way I could do it on my own very fast and without like having other people and saying, no, we need a year of preparation, or no, you can't write this and you can't do that. And so that's why I decided for self-publishing on Amazon.
Yeah, makes sense. I totally get it. Well, I have another question for you. Maybe you know the question already because I asked this question a lot of people. What would you do? Sorry again. What would you do if I gave you $100 million?
What would I do with $100 million? That's a good question, actually. Probably I would do some sort of school, university, whatever, where people would be taught different things, not the things that you learn in, German schools, like only math and biology and grammar and whatever, but things that bring you further in life, like the ocean model, how to reflect on yourself, how to better communicate, how to find your vision, how to have a positive impact on other people, like a lot of soft skills, and basically things that you don't learn in life, and maybe governments and companies don't want you to learn because then you would start thinking on your own, taking your own decisions. And I would basically build a school or something like that, which also works like online, and where people could meet. People from different countries, from different cultures could meet. Because I think we're stronger together in a team. And I always thought in the past, like when I was in school, teamwork doesn't help. Team doesn't work and everything, that's bad. But it's only because I didn't understand how a team can be successful and how other people have other thoughts and other abilities. And like the O.C.E.A.N model and reflecting on your behavior and everything, when you have this as a base, teamwork can be much more effective. And right now, I believe that teamwork is a key to success when you share like the power. And right now, I would do this and I would follow this and work out on teamwork, but with a different base layer that you have in school, where you just put people in a group and say, work. Just do a solution. And everyone is thinking differently, has different opinions and everything. And then, of course, it doesn't work. And you think, oh, teamwork? No, that's not a good thing. Yeah, I would do a school or something like that.
School and the community of people who really understand their why, who really understand their characters, and therefore can work well together. Yeah, that's great. I think that's really needed. I think there are a lot of people who work in shitty jobs who don't like school because they only have to learn maths, and they have schoolmates they don't really like. They don't know how to deal with them, and teachers who don't understand the character traits of their students, co-workers who don't understand the co-workers' character traits, and therefore there are a lot of problems. I think this would be a really good change. Yeah, I think this would be money well spent. I like that. My approach is always to, just do my own thing instead, because I kind of gave up on it as well because of that, maybe. Who knows? Because you can do everything if you really like the people you work with, the people you study with, then the subject itself also doesn't matter much. But this subject of knowing how to deal with people better also needs to be taught in order to make such a change, because everyone should be aware of it. Yeah, beautiful. One more question. It's more market. Yeah, I will not say.
Yeah, go for it. I'm curious now.
Imagine you just invented an amazing product and you also made 100 products of them. And they're ready to ship, but nobody knows about your company, about the product, besides your friends. I give you $2,000. How do you spend it?
$2,000 on marketing.
On marketing? What exactly would you do?
I would probably, it depends on the product. What kind of product is it?
Choose one. You can choose one. Let's say it's a physical product that is, somewhat cheap. It's like $30 and it would change the life of a lot of people. And you just know that people will, maybe it's like $20, maybe it's $50. Let's say in that range.
I would then first identify who are the people that the product could be helpful for. What are the raving fans who could need this product most? And then I would probably go to them. Also check if they have like an impact on other people. How many other people do they know? And I would probably offer this product to these people, to like multiplicators, and ask them if they would like test the product and give me an honest review on that. And I would probably spend the $2,000 then on research for these people and getting in touch with the people that could like multiplicate my idea and my vision about the product. But also I would, of course, like not have only the product, but find out what the vision is behind, why the product is helping other people. And then I would probably like have a brand book or something that explains why this product is really a game changer in people's lives, and spend money on that.
I like that. It's really very community and vision based. Even here, your approach would be spend money to find people who really like it, also who really understand why this product is good for them. So for you, it's really about the vision. It's really about helping others. It's really about also allowing them, finding other people, allowing them to also benefit from the product. Yeah, I think we talked about it a few weeks ago when you said it's not about this egoistic centered thinking, but it's more about building a community, right? I think that's really important. That's for to you. That's something you really stand for, and also like that's kind of what you want to do. You want to have a school, you want to have a community, and you want to make sure that people understand each other and everyone is operating on their actual why, that they really enjoy what they're doing and doing it together. Yeah, I really like that.
That's the thing. If you don't have this, it's just a product that you throw away at some point. When you don't know what to do with the product, when you don't know about the why and the people's why behind it.
Yeah. That's cool. I like that. Where can people find you? Because, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but there's like the Notion site, there's Amazon. I think where are you active as well? Like on Instagram, LinkedIn?
Not yet much. I do have an account, of course. I'm planning to be more active on that. I'm also planning on being on more podcasts. So just look on LinkedIn or Instagram if I link any podcast that I'm on. Maybe I'll start my own podcast at some point, but it's not on the roadmap yet. We will see, maybe in the second half of the year. And I think the main platform is LinkedIn, where you can find me.
Okay.
But you'll learn a little bit more about me on Instagram in the next weeks as well. So that's basically the two platforms. And then, just get in touch with me, send me a message or something. If you have any questions about vision, whatever, if you want a template or something, just get in touch. We have a lot of processes developed with the clients we worked on, and happy to help if you have any questions.
Beautiful. Yeah, I know that I'm going to take your test. You will send me the link. I will link it in every reel or YouTube video this will be published on. And I really think everyone should take this test and work with you.